So in that last video, we just fixed a row difference that was coming up in the deferred tax line. So let's pop back over to the Inputs tab, and we're going to select these cells and hit Alt-HHN to remove the fill color. Then we want to tap Alt-3 on our keyboard to run the Dependency Density tool again. And as we can see now, the number of errors has gone from 3 down to 2. So let's mark these cells, Control-Shift-K, and then we can tap here F4, and then we want to hit Alt-5 to clear up these visualizations. Now we can head back over to the income statement, knowing that there's only 2 errors or potential issues remaining for us to investigate. So what we need to do here is we need to manually and carefully check the first column. So let's continue using native Excel shortcuts for now. So we're on the first revenue item here. We can hit Control left square bracket. We can see it's correctly connected here. F5 enter to get back. Down to the next cell, Control left square bracket, and again, F5 enter to get back. Now we can check gross profit just by tapping F2, and we can see that that also looks correct. Now let's continue on. Down here to SG&A, we're going to tap Control left square bracket, and actually we can see that this is mislinked. It is connected to 2022 instead of 2023. Now, unfortunately, we're not able to make a change right now, so we just need to hit F5 enter to get back. So one issue with that native Excel shortcut that we just used is that we weren't able to make a change to the connection while we were using the shortcut. What a lot of people would do now is tap F2 and go in here and manually change this to a K. Well, there's a slightly better way. What we can do is use the Shift key and highlight this reference and hit F5 enter. We then go back to the inputs page, and now we can use the arrows to move over to column K and hit enter. We've actually made the change to the formula now. Now we can go to this cell and hit Control-Shift-R, which is a fast fill right, to copy it across. Now, if you hadn't seen those native Excel shortcuts before, you may be impressed by them, but they still require a lot of keystrokes, and that's going to add a considerable amount of time to our model audit. Now, in fact, there's one other issue with those native Excel shortcuts. What we're going to do is make a quick modification to this cell just to demonstrate this other issue. Now, please don't make this change to your copy of the model, but just watch for a moment. We're going to use F2 to pop into this cell. And let's imagine that there was in fact another connection here to this cell, K14. Let's hit enter and see how this Excel shortcut would work. So now this cell is linked back to 2 places on the inputs page. If we use that native Excel shortcut, Control left square bracket, we only go to the first one when we hit F5, enter, and come back. To get to the second one, we'd actually have to hit F2, highlight this, and then hit F5 enter to evaluate the second linkage. This is obviously a lot of keystrokes to be able to audit this cell. Now, if you added this second linkage to the model, please make sure that you remove it. What we're going to do is copy this cell here and paste it back to make sure that the model is now correct. So we've been able to see with this demonstration that these native Excel shortcuts do have some issues. Next video, we're going to evaluate Pro Precedence, which is such a powerful tool from Macabacus. It's going to allow us to evaluate every linkage inside a cell and every formula, and also allow us to make changes on the fly. Let's hop ahead to that next video and get started. As you could see from that last video, those native Excel shortcuts did not work very well when there was more than one linkage inside a cell. Also, we weren't able to make changes to formulas easily on the fly. The Pro Precedence tool is going to solve all those problems for us. There's good reasons why this is one of the most popular and powerful tools inside the Macabacus suite. So let's continue our single column check going down the income statement. Now we've already checked SG&A, so let's go into this other line here and remember the native Excel shortcut, Control left square bracket. Well, for Pro Precedence, we're going to hit Control Shift left square bracket, and the dialog box opens like this. So let's get comfortable moving around this dialog box with the keyboard. If we tap Control End, it goes to the bottom right corner. Control Home goes back up to the top left corner. And if you're working on a financial model with really large complex formulas, you can hold down the Shift key and use the down arrow or the right arrow to expand and contract this dialog box. Another great tip that some people really like is holding down the Control key and then being able to move the box around. For instance, if we're going down this column, we may want the Pro Precedence dialog box to be right here near where we're auditing. The best thing about this tool, if we tap Escape and then hit Control-Shift left square bracket again, it remembers exactly where we were. For us, we're going to hit Control Home and park it back in the top left corner. So let's start our single column check now. Let's tap the down arrow and we go to the precedent cell. We can see it's correctly connected, so we can tap the Escape key to get back. Now let's go down to the next cell. Just tap the F2 key since it's a formula, and we can see that that looks correct. Down to depreciation for Pro Precedence, Control-Shift left square bracket, down arrow, and we can see, again, a correct connection. Tap the Escape key, and we're back. Now again, down to the next cell, we can see it's a formula. We'll tap F2, looks fine. Into this cell, Pro Precedence, and we can see here, tap the down arrow, it's a perfect connection. We're going to tap Escape to get back. This is a formula. We tap F2, and we've checked that as well. So let's go down now to current tax and run Pro Precedence again. Tap the down arrow, and we can see here an incorrect connection. Let's make the change right away. We're going to look at the bottom left corner of our computer screen here where it says Ready in the status bar. We want to tap the F2 key once, perhaps twice, depending on your version, until you can see it says Point Mode here. You can see a dotted line around the cell reference. Now we can use the right arrow to move over and hit Enter, and we've now made the change. Now we can escape out knowing that the change has been made. Now that we've made that change, to copy it across from this cell, we're going to hit Control-Shift-R, which is a fast fill right. Now we're going to go into Deferred Tax, Pro Precedence, tap the down arrow. That looks correct. Hit Escape. And finally, we're going to look in Total Tax and then in Net Income. Everything appears to be fine for now. Now with model audits, we want to make sure that we're being thorough. Let's go back over to the Inputs page. Remembering here, we had two little issues here. Alt-HHN to remove the fill color. Now we're going to tap Alt-3 to check dependency density. As we can see, it's perfect now. So let's tap Alt-5 so we clear these visualizations and head back over to the income statement. Now remember, we want to be very thorough with our work. So it might be really nice to do another formula flow check here. So let's select all the way across and to the bottom, tap Alt-4 on our keyboard, and we can see the formula flow pattern has now changed. If we step back and take a look at this pattern, what we see all the way down the income statement is horizontal consistency in every row from left to right. But what's also appearing now is we have vertical consistency here with these vertical lines from SG&A down to other, and we also have vertical consistency here from current taxes down to deferred taxes. This is looking perfect. So let's just tap Alt-5 on our keyboards now to clear these visualizations. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but there might be one more error lurking on this income statement. Let's investigate in the next video. We'll see you there. So we've been able to leverage a lot of powerful Macabacus tools over these last few videos. Dependency density, auto color, formula flow, most recently Pro Precedence. But what we have to make sure that we do before we leave this income statement and move on to the cash flow statement is look down through the statement just to make sure that the numbers make sense. We really can't stress how important this is to just do a quick check of the numbers just to make sure that they make sense before leaving the schedule and moving on to the next one. Now, we already know that we have perfect consistency left to right in this schedule, so we only need to check one column. We have $58 million of revenue here, $30 million of costs, so it makes sense that we have $28 million in gross profit. If we then subtract off $6 million of SG&A and $2 million of other, that leaves us with $20 million of EBITDA. We're going to subtract $4 million of depreciation to be left with $16 million of EBIT. And moving down the income statement, we can see that $1.2 million in interest expense leaves us with $14.8 million in earnings before tax. And one thing that you'll notice on this income statement is that we're always marking unfavorable items as negatives, which is a convention that we highly recommend because it makes it very clear which items are favorable or unfavorable to the company. So when we get down here, we can see that the total tax of $3 million is obviously unfavorable to the company. But then when we highlight net income, we can clearly see a problem. The company had $14.8 million of earnings before tax. We should be reducing that by $3 million to get the correct net income number here. So let's pop into this cell down here for net income, tap F2, and we can see the issue right there. We should actually have a plus sign in here like that. So we're adding these two cells together. Let's hit enter and then hit Control-Shift-R for a fast fill right. Now these Macabacus visualizations are so fast, it would be easy for us to run one final check across here. So let's highlight everything on this income statement and hit Alt-4 for formula flow. And we can see a really nice perfect pattern there, and then Alt-5 to clear that up. As you can see, we were just able to find a pretty substantial error on the income statement just by checking the numbers. This is an error that those tools wouldn't have been able to help us find. So we always want to do a sense check like that before leaving one statement to move on to another one. It's a great idea to think about auditing in a modular fashion, but before you leave one schedule or module, great idea to do a quick sense check before moving on to the next one. Let's go ahead to the cash flow statement in the next video. We'll see you there.